I was sitting at my floor-to-ceiling window, the city lights stretching below me like a sea of stars, sipping on lukewarm coffee, when my phone buzzed. A group message from my sister popped up. "Can't wait for you to be my bridesmaid." I stared at the screen, a small smile tugging at the corner of my lips. My silk blouse brushed against my skin, soft and expensive, a reminder that my life had moved far beyond the narrow expectations they once set for me. My heart gave a tiny, bitter pang, memories rushing back uninvited, because they hadn't always been so excited. Years ago, I was not aesthetic enough, too plain, not the right look for a role that was supposed to be about family and love. They had laughed, whispered, and pointed, while I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded politely, forcing a smile that never reached my eyes. I put my coffee down, the warmth fading from my hands. The city hummed softly below me, oblivious to the storm of old emotions. My pride told me to ignore it, to keep moving, but a tiny, curious spark flickered inside me. What would it feel like to show them, to let them see who I had really become? The message pinged again, impatient and casual. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't just a text. It was a doorway, a challenge, a moment that would demand I confront everything I had been told I couldn't be. I remember that summer like it was yesterday. The air was sticky with humidity. My younger self perched nervously on the edge of the couch in my sister's sunlit living room. She had just announced her bridal party, excitement sparkling in her eyes like champagne bubbles. And then she looked at me, her smile faltering slightly, and said words that would echo for years. "You're just not the aesthetic we're looking for. Maybe you can help with decorations." My chest tightened, a hard lump forming that made swallowing feel impossible. My hands trembled, fingers curling into the soft fabric of my dress. I wanted to say something, anything, to defend myself, to demand that my worth wasn't measured by my looks. But the words stuck, caught somewhere between my fear and my pride. I excused myself to the bathroom, leaning against the cool tile wall, the hum of the air conditioner loud in my ears. I stared at my reflection, a face I barely recognized, eyes brimming with hurt, lips pressed tight to hide the tears. For the first time, I felt the weight of invisibility, of being judged not for who I was but for how I looked. That evening, my grandmother called. She was old, wise, and unapologetically honest. "Don't let anyone tell you what you're worth," she said, her voice soft but unwavering. She handed me a delicate silver locket, her own, worn with age, and whispered, "Carry this with you. Let it remind you, beauty is what you make of yourself, not what others demand." I clutched that locket in my palm, feeling its smooth edges, the warmth of her hand still lingering on it. And in that moment, I made a decision. I would no longer measure myself by their narrow vision of beauty. I would walk a path of my own, carve out my worth with my actions, and create a life that reflected me, not them. That night, lying in bed, I imagined the woman I wanted to become. Confident, respected, unshakable. I didn't know exactly how I would get there, but I knew one thing. I would rise. Not for anyone else, but for me. After that summer, I disappeared from their world in a quiet, almost invisible way. I didn't announce my plans, didn't seek validation. I simply started building. College came first. Long nights in a cramped apartment, textbooks stacked high, coffee cups teetering on every surface. Every lecture, every exam, every rejection letter became fuel, reminding me that my value wasn't tied to their judgments. I met Ms. Caldwell during an internship at a boutique marketing firm. She was a woman in her 50s, sharp, brilliant, and unapologetically commanding respect. Most people found her intimidating. I found her inspiring. She saw something in me that no one else had bothered to notice. Determination. "You're smarter than they think and stronger than you feel," she told me one late evening as we pored over campaign reports, the office glowing with soft lamplight. "Don't waste your fire on proving yourself to the wrong people." Her words became a mantra. I dove headfirst into every opportunity, every challenge. There were moments of crippling self-doubt, presentations that went wrong, ideas that fell flat, nights when I questioned if I was even cut out for this world. But for every setback, there was a small victory. My first major client signed on after weeks of relentless pitching. I celebrated alone in my apartment, the city lights below me reflecting off the polished floor like tiny stars applauding. I saved every dollar, invested in myself, and gradually transformed my small side projects into thriving businesses. I learned to negotiate, to network, to command rooms with a quiet authority I hadn't known I possessed. I kept my family at arm's length from my progress. If they asked, I downplayed successes, shared curated snapshots of ordinary life. They didn't need to know how far I'd come, not yet. My apartment became my sanctuary, a silent testament to my growth. Walls adorned with art I loved, bookshelves stacked with knowledge and inspiration, and a sleek desk where I spent countless hours turning dreams into tangible success. Every morning, as I sipped my coffee and adjusted my silk blouse, I allowed myself a moment of quiet pride. I was finally living for me, and it felt like freedom. And yet, every now and then, a thought of them, my sister, my family, drifted into my mind. Would they recognize the woman I had become? Or would they still see the plain girl they had dismissed, the one who wasn't aesthetic enough? That uncertainty lingered, but instead of fear, it ignited a different emotion, anticipation. One day they would see. And when that day came, it would not be by my pleading, it would be on my terms. The invitation had been clear, a family gathering, just a casual get-together. I had agreed, of course. Why would I let them see me flinch before they even knew the truth? I arrived in my townhome, the valet greeting me politely, unaware of the family drama about to unfold inside. I stepped through the door, heels clicking on the marble floor, and paused for a moment, letting the space speak for itself. The apartment was a reflection of everything I had built in silence. Expensive, yet tasteful art adorned the walls. Pieces I had chosen not for impressing anyone, but because they spoke to me. A sleek, mahogany desk held awards and plaques for my businesses, carefully arranged yet inviting. The aroma of fresh coffee and vanilla candles lingered softly, a subtle signal of comfort and control. They arrived soon after, laughing and chattering like they had no idea who I had become. My sister was the first to notice. Her eyes widened imperceptibly as she took in the room. My parents exchanged a glance, a faint furrow appearing between their brows. And for a brief moment, I let them settle in, letting the silence grow. "Wow," my mother said finally, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. "This is beautiful." I smiled, the gesture slow, deliberate. "Thank you," I replied, my tone calm, confident. "I've been working hard." "Working hard for what exactly?" my father asked, suspicion lacing his voice. I let my hand brush against the silver locket resting on my collarbone, the one my grandmother had given me years ago. It was my reminder of strength, of my journey. "For this," I said, gesturing to the room, my life, the empire I had quietly built. "I own multiple companies, I have clients across the country, and I'm financially independent." Silence fell. Their eyes darted across the apartment, taking in every detail, the awards, the books, the certificates, the sleek design that spoke of taste and success. You didn't tell us," my sister stammered, shame creeping into her voice. I shook my head slowly, a trace of irony in my smile. "Why would I? You told me I wasn't enough. You said I wasn't aesthetic enough to stand by your side at your wedding. I guess I wanted you to see me now, not through your narrow lens, but as the woman I became on my own terms." Disbelief settled over their faces. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father's jaw tightened. My sister's shoulders slumped, a mixture of regret and awe in her eyes. We never knew," she whispered, almost to herself. I leaned against the edge of my desk, crossing my arms. "And now you do." The words weren't cruel. They weren't meant to punish. They were simply the truth, delivered with precision and control. I had spent years building myself in secret, proving to myself, not them, that I was capable of greatness. And as they looked at me, really looked, I could see the shift. recognition, guilt, astonishment, all blended together. They were witnessing not the girl they had dismissed, but the woman I had always been capable of becoming. A woman who had refused to let their narrow judgments define her worth. In that moment, I realized the power wasn't just in my success. It was in my silence, my patience, and the quiet triumph of proving my own value, not to them, but to me. The room pulsed with unspoken acknowledgement. I was here. I had arrived, and nothing they had said or done could diminish the woman I had worked so hard to become. The room was quiet now, the air thick with the weight of realization. I could see it in their eyes, a mix of awe, shame, and a faint hint of fear. For the first time in years, I had the upper hand, and I didn't rush to assert it. Power, I had learned, wasn't in loud declarations. It was in measured control, in knowing that my success had given me choices they didn't yet understand. I took a slow breath, letting the moment linger. I've been thinking, I began, my voice steady but warm, about how we move forward from here, about what it means to be family and what it means to respect each other. They listened, eyes glued to me. My sister shifted uncomfortably, the guilt she had carried for years finally meeting the woman I had become. I am willing to support you, I continued, but on my terms, not on the terms of the past, when I was overlooked, dismissed, or judged. If you want my help, there are conditions, simple, yet crucial. My parents leaned in slightly, curiosity battling apprehension. I picked up the silver locket, letting it catch the light. First, you must stop defining people by appearances or narrow expectations. Second, you must acknowledge and respect effort and achievement, not just words or status. Third, you must pursue your own growth honestly, chase dreams that excite you, not ones that make you look good to others. I paused, letting each point settle. And finally, you must let go of the toxic patterns that kept us apart. Jealousy, criticism, dismissal, those end today. My sister's lips trembled. I understand, she whispered, almost breaking. I nodded, not with triumph, but with quiet reassurance. This isn't punishment, I said gently. It's accountability. I care about you, but I won't bend to old patterns. We all deserve better. Better relationships, better choices, better respect. I could feel the shift in the room, the subtle change in posture, the way their eyes softened as they realized this wasn't about proving anything to them, but about reclaiming my own dignity. They were beginning to see that the woman before them wasn't just successful, she was unshakable, fair and kind, but not at the expense of herself. The locket rested against my chest like a talisman, a reminder of the advice my grandmother had given me. Carry yourself with your own worth. Let no one dictate it. And here it was, playing out perfectly. I had given them a chance, a real chance, to rise with me, but on equal footing. For the first time, I felt not just victorious, but peaceful. The power dynamic had shifted, yes, but it was a power rooted in self-respect, wisdom, and love. I wasn't exacting revenge. I was offering redemption for them, yes, but more importantly for myself. And as they listened, nodding slowly, I realized this. I was no longer defined by their opinions. I was defined by my choices, my strength, and the life I had built. And now they had the opportunity to meet me there, not the me they wanted, but the me I had become. In the weeks that followed, the atmosphere in my family began to change, subtly at first, then more noticeably. My sister enrolled in a design course she had always dreamed of, but never pursued. My parents, slowly shedding their old judgments, started attending workshops and volunteering, finding purpose beyond appearances and social expectations. I watched from a distance, quietly proud, knowing that the ripple of growth had begun. I allowed myself small, private moments of reflection. Sitting by my window with the city lights stretching endlessly, I traced the outline of the silver locket against my collarbone. It was more than jewelry. It was a symbol of resilience, a reminder that the pain I had endured had been the soil from which my strength grew. Every challenge, every dismissal, every harsh word had built me, piece by piece, into a woman who could stand unshakable in her own truth. There were moments of doubt, of course. I still remembered the sting of being called not aesthetic enough, the nights I cried silently in my apartment, wondering if anyone would ever see me for who I truly was. But those memories no longer held power over me. They were simply markers of the distance I had traveled, milestones of the woman I had become. One evening, my sister came to me, eyes glistening with tears and a tentative smile. "Thank you," she whispered, "for showing me for not giving up on yourself." I reached out, holding her hand gently, feeling a bridge finally forming between us. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't be overnight, but it was real. I realized then that empowerment wasn't just about wealth, titles, or recognition. It was about claiming your own worth, setting boundaries, and allowing others the chance to rise, if they chose to. And for myself, it meant living fully, unapologetically, and on my own terms. As I closed my eyes that night, the silver locket resting against my heart, I smiled. The girl who had once been told she wasn't enough had grown into a woman who was more than enough, strong, independent, graceful. And finally, I could say it aloud, not to prove anything to anyone, but because it was true. I am exactly who I was meant to be.